All right, schoolers, welcome to my first module, my first lesson. This is pretty cool for me. This is a pretty cool experience, and I've done courses and stuff similar before, but never kind of like pre-recorded stuff, and I'm really excited about this as an opportunity to share a lot of my knowledge with you guys and, hopefully give you as much value as I can and help you guys out as much as possible for being a part of this community. So, super excited. Today's topic is one that I have been studying and looking into for a while. It's something that I've personally worked on and improved a lot myself. So, I know that it's possible to do. You just gotta do it, and it may take a long time. But here it is. Overhead mobility, why it's important. Really, the lesson of today is how to improve your overhead mobility. That's exactly what it is, right? So, in the first slide, we're talking about why is it important? Like, why would you actually want to improve your overhead mobility, right? And to put it shortly, if you're a strength athlete, and this module, this course doesn't just apply to strength athletes. This also applies to anybody in life who's struggling with shoulder mobility, overhead mobility, shoulder pain. This will be applicable for everybody. It's not just strength athletes or strongman. Obviously, very applicable for strongman or Olympic weightlifters, people who do need to improve their overhead mobility in reason for competing in sport, but the everyday person, right? Lack of mobility equals lack of strength expression. If you cannot access a range of motion, you'll never be able to fully express 100% of your true strength potential because of the lack of mobility, essentially. So you'll never know how strong you are if you're limited in your mobility, essentially. And then kind of like big picture stuff, poor homeostasis of the body equals dysfunction down the road. All that means is if you have problems with your shoulders, your hips, your ribs, it's just going to lead to a boatload of issues down the line. Different compensations over time, different injuries over time. This is stuff that's important for your physical health. It's stuff that's important for your longevity in life and in sport. So you want to try to get these things sorted as soon and as quick as possible because it will improve the quality of life and your sport too, right? Always being applicable to both people here. So let's get into it. Okay, so how do you improve your overhead mobility? Well, we have to look at specific muscle groups first. When it comes to overhead mobility, what muscles are being used? Probably the biggest one, most important one to start is your serratus anterior, okay? So your serratus anterior kind of wraps all the way around, like from your mid-back to your like middle of the rib cage here. Obviously, you can see in this diagram, it's the green, okay? Often has lack of mobility due to tightness from retraction and movements like bench pressing. So if you're kind of like a power lifter or if you're a typical gym bro, your serratus is probably pretty locked up because the serratus responds very well to protraction, and a lot of movements that we do in the gym, well, quite literally every movement that we do in the gym requires some form of retraction, right? This way, shoulders back. So retraction locks up the serratus, which can lead to compensation down the line, right? So responds well to protraction of the shoulders. Protraction of the shoulders, really simple for anybody who doesn't know, is rolling your shoulders forward. Protraction is, I always do that. That's a mistake. Protraction of the shoulders, rolling your shoulders forward. Retraction, pulling them back, okay? Slip of the tongue on my part, but your shoulders respond really well to protraction, rolling them forward. Your serratus, okay, is responsible for upwards rotation when going overhead, okay? So if you look at your back, when you physically lift your arms overhead, your serratus muscles are like this. Picture these are your two, like scapula, your two shoulder blades. And when you put your arms overhead, they upwardly rotate this way out. So if your serratus is locked up, it's only going to be able to upwardly rotate so much before it runs out of room and it can't keep going anymore, okay? Another super, super important muscle group is your trap, specifically your trap 3, your lower back, okay? It runs all the way down to lower than you think. People think trap, they think here, but your trap can quite literally go all the way down your mid-back. There's a lot of similarities here between the serratus and the trap 3. They do work synergistically a little bit together, okay? You want to try to pick exercises that specifically target and strengthen the trap 3. Okay, we will go into that later on in the slides, later on in the modules, but it's super important to strengthen your trap 3 if you do want to improve your overhead mobility, right? Your trap 3 is a lot weaker than you think, okay? When isolated, you'd be surprised how little weight you can do, all right? So improving this will lead to many improvements on your main lifts, specifically your overhead lifts, okay? But it will restore overall function of the body as well, and, you know, improve the homeostasis in your skeletal system, which is, you know, alignment of the hips, knees, ankles. Just kind of think, when I say homeostasis, just think perfect being, perfect vessel, no injuries, no unalignments, no ailments, just, you know, essentially perfect. Obviously that doesn't exist, but that's what we're trying to work towards. Another super underrated muscle group to look at when it comes to your overhead mobility is your pec minor, okay? This is directly linked to your ability to externally rotate your shoulders, okay? So we'll go through this again. Just to recap from before, protraction of the shoulder blade, roll them forward, retraction, pulling them back. Now when you get into your shoulder and what it can do, you can internally rotate your shoulder blade or externally rotate your shoulder blade. When you externally rotate, if I did it with my right arm here, if I externally rotate, this muscle, pec minor, the length of this muscle will determine how well I can rotate. If this muscle is short and tight, it's going to make doing this very hard. But if this muscle is long and has a lot of room, I can externally rotate a lot more, all right? If you are here for strongmen, and this is like something that's strength specific to you, improving your ability to externally rotate, lengthening and strengthening your pec minor will improve your rack position, okay? Back rack and front rack will improve both. So if you know what that is, back rack is your ability to put the bar on your back, front rack, ability to front rack the bar, keep it resting on your delts, or just at least have a better front rack. So loosen up those pec minors. Really important for shoulder health, really important for overhead mobility and improving overhead mobility. So what is shoulder external rotation? So we kind of just went over this. So it's responsible for how you will get your hands overhead, right? So you can't really put your arms overhead unless you externally rotate. Obviously, you're not going to do this, then this, but if you do go overhead, it just kind of happens naturally, right? Typically, this is like the last kind of step that gets better when it comes to overhead mobility, is the kind of like that shoulder ER, that shoulder external rotation, and really improving that up. Again, loosening up the pec minor. And in my personal experience, I have found with myself and with other people, this makes a really big difference, okay? It's not really covered as to, in this slide, it's not really necessarily covered why that's the case, but if you kind of take a step away and you zone out and you look at what most people do, especially guys, right? If you're a guy and you get into the gym, 14, 15, 16 years old, what's the number one exercise you're doing with your friends? Bench, right? Bench press is king. Yo, what do you bench, bro? Right? Like, that's the most common question that gym bros get asked, right? So super just common in gym culture. We are overdeveloped in the front delt, typically underdeveloped in the rear delt, and it's just because we bench a lot. That's just what it is. It's what the culture is, especially in America. Maybe it's a little bit different overseas in Europe and Australia, but over here, bench is king, big upper body, right? And just because of that, we develop compensations over time, like we spoke about. And the pec minor gets short, it gets tight, and you lose the ability to rotate and get overhead efficiently, right? So super common thing, like for power lifters to switch over to strongman and to have really bad overhead mobility because they're really prone to, retraction and benching, so they don't have great overhead mobility, okay? So how do we improve these things? All right, well, the way that we improve these things is we need to lengthen and strengthen. That's kind of always the general concept when it comes to improving mobility, improving function in an athlete, in a vessel, in a person. We need to lengthen and strengthen a muscle. So we do this through corrective exercises, right? These can get scaled down so much. These exercises that I'm about to show you, they can get scaled down to body weight exercises that will get there. These are exercises that I think you will get the most bang for your buck if you can execute them today. If you can do these exercises right now, you will get the most improvement in improving your overhead mobility today as fast as possible. If you can't do these exercises, there are regressions for each exercise. Those regressions are not covered in this module. That's not what this is about. This is just about how do we improve overhead mobility, best bang for your buck, essentially, right? That can be, and potentially already will be, another video. Like, what are different movement preps? What are different regressions to these exercises? But if you can get into these positions, you will get really good results by doing them, okay? So my personal favorites for the serratus, okay? We're going to kind of go through each muscle group and talk about what my favorite exercises are for each. Bare iso, bar none, is my favorite staple exercise for improving the serratus, okay? Like we talked about, the serratus responds really well to protraction, right? This exercise is a great exercise. If you see my position right here, I'm pushing the floor away from me. I'm pushing my shoulder blades up. I'm retracted. I'm rounded as much as possible, and I'm locking in that stability from pushing from the ground away. There's some other things going on in the background that, again, they're not covered in this course, but do make a really big difference. And arguably, you need to even start here, but one thing at a time. I'm tucking my pelvis, so I'm getting my pelvis neutral. I have some hamstring tension going on right here, but best bang for buck, bare iso. Okay, again, this course is not necessarily about how you execute these either, right? Those will be resources, again, that are coming in the future. How to execute exercises like this, how to progress exercises like this. There's a whole breathing component to this exercise that I think is super important. We're not here for that today, but again, they will be coming, and YouTube, other areas are a great source. Any kind of row that you do with a very long reach is always a good habit to preach or to practice consistently, because you're working on more protraction, right? So let's take a look at this exercise right here. I have the cable seesaw row set up, and as you can see, I'm reaching out as far as I can with both of my arms, really getting that shoulder protraction, which again is really good for the serratus. When it comes to overhead mobility, shoulder mobility, your protraction is your best friend. Any chance you get, protract. If you're driving a car, try to protract, push out like that. It sounds dumb, but little habits like that do actually make a difference over time. So this is something for people who are really locked up, and this kind of does go a little bit into like regressions of some stuff, but if you are very tight, you might need to let gravity do the work. So you can see here, I'm essentially hanging upside down, but I'm still achieving this rounded of the shoulder blades protraction, and I'm getting that stretch, if you will, from just hanging from my body weight. So some of you guys or gals may struggle to get this naturally. You might not be able to protract on your own very well or very hard, so you might have to let gravity do some of the work. As you can see here, I'm getting nice roundedness, I'm getting a real nice deep stretch in that upper back right here, and it's excellent for overhead mobility, stability, everything. Probably the number one staple of them all is the trap 3 raise, okay? It is crucial if you want to access and sustain good overhead mobility, right? So these two drills that we talked about here, protraction is a really good way to open up the serratus, so we strengthen it, but now you need to lock in that stability, okay? And trap 3 raise is probably one of the best ways to lock in that stability, because you're strengthening the serratus, the trap 3 muscle. Again, this is not a video on how to execute this or what you should feel. This is an exercise that you can very easily mess up, not in a negative way. You just won't be getting the benefit that you're looking for. So again, that is a video coming in the future. Let me know down like in the comments and stuff like what kind of area you would like me to kind of specialize in a little bit, because it is more ideas the better, honestly. The more ideas the better. Like, you know, I have so much knowledge on this stuff that I could really go into details of each of these, right? But yeah, this is like doing the trap 3 raise is one of the better ways to kind of lock in that stability. All right. Start light, progress, and, you know, slowly get heavier over time. Reason I say that is because, like we said earlier, the trap 3 raise is, well, the trap 3 in general is a lot weaker than you think, right? You guys will be very, very humbled by this exercise. So a good ratio for some of you strength athletes to follow here would be roughly, this is not an exact number, but about 10% of your 1RM on overhead for a set of 8 to 10 on each side. So if you're a 300-pound overhead presser, you would be doing 30 pounds for a set of 8 to 10, essentially. 200-pound overhead presser, 20 pounds, right? So it sounds easy. It's a lot harder than you think. A lot harder than you think. Okay, so now one of my favorite exercises to open up the pec minor is any kind of pressing with an extended range of motion, right? So this Duffalo bar, you can tell in this video, it has a slight curve, so it adds a couple extra inches of range of motion to the movement. And this is a far better exercise than doing a flat bench. Just a little insight into the way that I kind of program stuff for people, which is like, you know, a bench press I think is a good accessory for overhead strength, but you don't want to get the negative side effects of getting good and going heavy on bench. So the duffel bar is perfect because you can still express a lot of strength through the movement, and you also will keep your shoulder blades healthy because it's that extra stretch at the bottom. Doesn't look like it's a lot, but if you're not used to this extra curve right here makes a big difference, and you would be surprised how different it feels, really. Obviously, goal would be to like touch your chest. The more you can bring your hands into, the better, because the more you're challenging your mobility, right? I'm just an animal, and I was able to bench, I think this is like 415 for 2 with my feet up or something like that. I'm just a freak, to be honest with you. But any kind of lengthening of the pec exercise will do, right? So any kind of like machine where you're neutral, you're pulled back, you're doing a fly, really sit there, stretch, get a nice deep stretch, focus on opening up these pecs and work through a full range of motion. You know, it's a really nice way to open up the pec minor. I just really like the Duffalo bar bench. You can do a flat, you can do an incline. There's actually another bar out there. It's even more curved. It's literally like a straight up, down, bam, bam, like that. They use it for the that row, chest supported row. Some of you might know what I'm talking about. I can't think of the name right now off the top of my head. I'm kind of blanking, but it's awesome because you can express a lot of strength through a lengthened range of motion, which is like we said, it's the number one way to improve mobility and keep it and make it last, right? So duffel bar bench, give it a try. If you guys are in like more of a normal gym, you may not have access to this bar with the kind of extra curve on it. So I would say just a really simple piece of advice is like, you're probably better off doing dumbbell bench press rather than flat barbell bench press if you're looking to improve your overhead mobility, because you can get a little bit of a deeper stretch with the dumbbell. You can kind of control how far you go down with the dumbbell. This is the GOAT exercise, in my opinion, for improving shoulder external rotation. It's behind the neck, strict press, okay? You can do it seated, you can do it standing. It takes your shoulders through a full range of motion while they're externally rotated. Again, getting a nice deep stretch at the bottom and pressing and strengthening through a full range of motion. This exercise has done me so well. I would say this exercise, the duffel bar bench and the behind the neck press, were the two biggest drivers for improving my overhead mobility. And I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a before and after of my overhead mobility at the end. And you'll see how much of a difference it has come to, or it's made. But this is one of my favorite exercises. It's probably number 2, all-time favorite overhead press accessory movement. So we're going to talk about the 90-90 hang here in a second, even though this isn't really 90-90. But you may need to regress this movement, the press, a little bit, if you can't get underneath the bar physically, okay? So it may sound like a shock, but some people can't physically get underneath a bar and they can't put it on their back because they don't have the mobility to, even with an empty barbell. If that's you, I would encourage you to reach out to me, message me, and see what I have to say in terms of like what regression would be good for you. But again, that is another module for another day, right? I would get, like I said, if you're capable of doing this now, I would absolutely do it today because you'll get a lot of benefit for it. Another really good one, 90-90 hang. We go back and backtrack a little bit. We talked a little bit about the pelvis being tucked and how important that is. And that's something, again, we'll get into at a later time. So you're getting some neutral pelvis action here with the 90-90 position. But going back to the shoulders, I keep hitting the wrong thing. Going back to the shoulders, they're externally rotated. You're getting obviously a nice stretch in the lat, which I don't want to get into it a little bit today, but when people look to improve overhead mobility, they always look to stretch out the lat more. That never works. It's incorrect. It's dumb. It's stupid. It doesn't make sense. If anybody's telling you that, don't listen to them. Listen to me. But the 90-90 hang is a staple of mine too, pretty much before every session. I just hang for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes total. Break it up into a couple different sets, and it's a good habit to preach. Make sure when you do it, you're 90-90. Make sure you bring these knees up into your chest, your pelvis is tucked. Don't ask questions. You can ask questions, obviously. Ask them in the section down below, but just do it, okay? So here's what I don't know if I can zoom out here. So this is about a 3-year difference here in terms of overhead mobility, stability, right? So obviously here you can see so many compensations happening. Let's just start from the bottom and work our way up. Pelvis is extremely pushed forward here, almost like poking out, which is not good for so many things. It shortens and tightens the hip flexor, puts a lot of strain on the lower back. You can see how much my lower back here is rounded, and you can see how far I have to lean back just to get overhead. This was when I was relatively new to strongman. I was always muscle bound. I've always been a bit of a muscle bound kind of guy, but I've always had really, really bad overhead mobility. Achieving something like this, although it's not perfect yet, okay, I still have a little bit of, extension going on through the upper and mid back area. It is 10 times better, to be honest with you. I'm nearly stacked. That's what you want to look for, is you want to see like ankles, knees, hips, all in one line, which as you can see right here, they're just not, like, this is not in line with this. This is my hip. It's not in line with that. Ribs are totally flared. Ribs are still a little bit flared here, but again, this is something that I was not genetically blessed or, able to do naturally. I've had to work on this. There's about a 3-year difference in between these photos. It's something that I've just been constantly working on for the last 3 years, to be honest with you. So this stuff takes time, but again, this is not perfect. It's not picture perfect by any means, but it's a huge improvement from here, okay? And like I said, I was kind of always muscle bound to begin, but I'm about 25 to 30 pounds heavier in this photo here. And if you know anything about gaining weight, gaining muscle mass, you know that a lot of times mobility tends to suffer, tends to get worse because of it. And mine has only gotten better over time, okay? So clearly the results are there for you to see. And that kind of covers everything, right? Like I said, there's about a 3-year difference in the before and after photo here. It takes years, guys. It's not going to fix itself in a month or two. You just have to constantly be doing these exercises, which is why you should get my coaching, to be honest with you, because I program exercises like this every single block that I write for every single person that I write. They're doing some kind of work towards this always. And you can see it in some of my clients too, the results that they've gotten. But like I said, a whole different module would need to be created on regressions of movement, progressions of movement, how to program for these, et cetera, different cues, how to execute some of them. So be out on the lookout for that stuff, because that stuff is coming. That's what this school is going to be about. It's going to be very in-depth, in tune. I really enjoy doing this, to be honest with you. I really like being able to put my knowledge down on a piece of paper, or in this instance, virtual or digitally, whatever you want to call it. And I like speaking about this stuff because it's stuff that I'm passionate about, and it's cool things in my opinion. So I really did enjoy doing this, and there will be many more of these to come on different topics, not just strength training, but nutrition as well, breaking down just everything you need to know, to be honest with you. Weight loss, muscle gain, staying lean, how to shop, how to meal prep, different strategies, different recipes, how to get strong, how to get lean, how to put on muscle, like everything that you need, how to improve your mobility. Confident in saying there's not much that I can't help you guys with. I would say the only thing that I'm not incredibly versed in right now is just like diseases and stuff, like curing that stuff, like chronic diseases and whatnot. There are people out there that are really good at doing that. It's not necessarily my specialties, but another kind of avenue that I'd like to explore a little bit is PEDs, peptides, supplements, those things, because again, I love speaking about it. So thank you guys for tuning in, and more to come.